collective roar, an instant return. What took 22 years previously has been achieved at the first attempt on this occasion.
Okay, yeah, huge breaking news actually, because we're hearing that Kieran McKenna is going to step down as Ipswich head coach and take a break from football.
Football can change quickly. On the 2nd of May, I was watching Ipswich Town celebrate promotion back to the Premier League with that 3-0 win over QPR. Portman Road was bouncing, the connection between the team, the manager and the supporters felt stronger than ever, and it felt like the Kieran McKenna project still had another chapter to run. But just over a month later, everything changed. McKenna stepped away and suddenly Ipswich were facing the biggest transition the club has had in years. Not just replacing the manager who is loved, but replacing the man who had come to define the club's modern era. O'Neill played over 500 senior games, including 214 in the Premier League, across clubs such as Portsmouth, Middlesbrough, West Ham, Queen's Park Rangers, Norwich, Bristol City and Bolton. What stands out to me is that it's not just the number of games, but the type of situations he was in, such as promotion pushes, relegation fights, managerial changes and pressure. He spent a long time around serious football people in serious football environments. His first proper step into coaching came at Liverpool with the under-23s under Barry Lutus. It was brief, only around 6 months, so I would not overstate his direct influence, but it still matters. He was inside an elite development environment around players trying to push towards loans, first team football and senior careers. So by the time he moved into first team coaching, he had already experienced the pressure as a player and as a player development as a coach. But his real break came after Bournemouth lost 9-0 at Liverpool. That is a huge moment to inherit a team. Parker was gone, confidence looked shot, and O'Neill's first job was not just tactical evolution, it was emotional repair. He had to pick the players up, rebuild the structure and convince a newly promoted squad they could survive. The football was practical, Bournemouth became compact, disciplined, harder to play through and dangerous enough in moments. The fan perception was interesting as well. Back of the Net, the AFC Bournemouth fan channel on YouTube, covered his exit, and what I took from that was there was a respect there, even if questions remained about style and a long-term ceiling. Julian Lopetegui had left days before the season started. Key players had gone, the club felt unsettled, and from the outside it looked like another survival job waiting to happen. Again, O'Neill arrived into doubt, but Wolves showed more of his coaching than Bournemouth did. At Bournemouth, the job was to stabilise and survive. At Wolves, there were more tactical layers. He used back 3 and back 5 structures, made Wolves compact without the ball and give them a real threat into transitions. It was attacking with purpose, breaking quickly and getting the best out of players in moments. The Sky Monday Night Football analysis helped shift the perception too. O'Neill came across as detailed and clear, talking through training ground footage and explaining how Wolves prepared for specific opponents. For me, that showed the detail he and his staff were putting in, and it was interesting to see those ideas appear in match situations. The Forbes piece around that time captured the changing view as well, suggesting O'Neill had the makings of one of English football's next top managers. But it was his final games against Ipswich and I was there that day. You could feel the tension around Molineux. There was frustration, anger, and a sense that things were starting to fall apart. Then Jack Taylor scores that stoppage time header, Ipswich win 2-1 and the place erupts in a completely different directions. For Ipswich, chaos in the best way. For Wolves, it felt like breaking point. After the final whistle, it boiled over even more. Mateus Cunha involved in the incident with an Ipswich security guard. It summed out how much control had slipped away. That is why O'Neill's Wolves spell is difficult to judge simply. At his best, he organised the team, improved individuals, produced big results and earned tactical praise. But by the end, the mood had turned, the results had collapsed and the pressure had caught up with him. Different country, different football culture, a younger squad and a fan base already unsure about the direction of the club because of Blue Coat's ownership. In the coach's voice piece that I've read, O'Neill talks a lot about learning, preparation in detail. He makes it clear that coaching was always the route he wanted to go down and that he'd been studying managers, sessions, tactical ideas long before he became a head coach. He does not come across as someone trying to rip everything up. He talks more about building on what was already there, improving the players in the building and creating a culture that is relentless, courageous and hard working. But I did watch a couple of their games, including his first game against Metz, a 2-1 win, and that mad 5-4 win over Monaco, which was basically his last game of the season. And you could see some of what he was talking about. There are moments where Strasbourg sat deeper and absorbed pressure, so I don't want to dress it up like it was attacking football all the time, but there was a clear O'Neill ideas. High regains, quick attacks, aggressive wide players, and a number 10 who could drift across the pitch to connect things. Sometimes Strasbourg built patiently, sometimes they went early into the channels. And for me, that is where Strasbourg became useful when analysing O'Neill. He is often labelled pragmatic, and I understand why, but his own words suggest he may see himself as more than just someone who's coping with survival. He talks about having the ball when possible, attacking quickly, creating chances, and being aggressive out of possession. At Bournemouth and Wall, that was sometimes limited by survival context, he's mentioned. You can start to see how those ideas might look in a broader project. This is not the same job that McKenna walked into all those years ago. When McKenna arrived, we were trying to escape years of decline and rebuild belief, and by the time he left, he changed the whole trajectory of the club. League One, Championship, the Premier League, a connection between team, manager and supporters that would be hard for anyone to follow. O'Neill was not just replacing a manager, he's following the person who gave us a lot of memories we did not think we would see again. But once you strip the emotion back, Ipswich's immediate task is clear. Survival. The last Premier League season gave us pride but also exposed the level. Ipswich scored goals, there were great moments, especially those wins against Spurs and Chelsea. But defensively the gap was obvious. With 82 goals conceded, we were too easy to play through too often. That is where O'Neill does make sense. He's walked into difficult situations before. He has not always arrived with excitement though, as I've mentioned, but he's usually brought together structure, organisation and clarity. Us supporters would accept pragmatism, especially in the Premier League. Not if it completely removes what has made the club feel alive again. So, is Gary O'Neill the right person for now? Don't get me wrong, I wasn't sold on him to begin with, you're very biased about what you've recently seen. But as I said, he is not the romantic choice. Not because he replaces Kieran McKenna emotionally, he cannot do that straight away. But Ipswich needs someone who understands the harsh reality of the Premier League, can organise a team, and can give us a platform to stay in the division. The biggest question is what comes after that. If O'Neill only gives Ipswich survival instincts, the ceiling may feel limited. But if he can combine the structure with energy, development, and from thought ideas that we started to see at Strasbourg, then maybe this is not just a safe pair of hands. Maybe it is the next stage of Ipswich growing up as a Premier League club. And that is why this appointment is so fascinating. For now, I understand the doubts. I feel them too, as I've said. After looking at his journey properly, I also understand the logic. Gary O'Neill might not be the appointment that wins everyone over from day one, but then again, he really is. The question is whether, once the work starts, he can change the conversation again.